The Daniel Natal Show, a toy inside every box. In politics, Aristotle says that there are four main functions of every form of government: creating infrastructure, forming a military, establishing a judiciary, and maintaining the temple. In the United States, we did the first of these three things but neglected the last. And why not? We didn't have to have a state religion because America was founded by religious communities: Puritans, Quakers, Baptists, and so forth. Because we started out as utopian colonies, hence why Sam Adams in the 1750s envisioned America as a quote-unquote Christian Sparta, we thought that we could neglect this one aspect and just concentrate on the other three. This helped us to have a pared-down limited government. So why waste extra time and resources maintaining a cohesive culture and belief system? It's not like the demographics or socioeconomics of the country would change. Oh wait, they did. And now, we're balkanizing, fragmenting into a million different splinter groups. It's always important to remember that the American Revolution was just a continuation of the earlier English Revolution touched off by Oliver Cromwell in the 1640s. According to Alistair MacIntyre in A Short History of Ethics, many of the liberal ideas of the Founding Fathers came from the left wing of the English revolutionaries under Cromwell. One of their newfangled beliefs was that the divine right of kings was a joke. That's why Charles I was executed, and why Cromwell replaced him to establish the First English Republic. Of course, Cromwell eventually dies, and the Restoration takes place, where Charles II is brought back in. Hence why so many liberal revolutionaries had to flee to the colonies, just to avoid retribution for what they had done earlier. That's why the Puritans landed at Plymouth Rock. They were running away from England, but they brought with them their ideas, and one of these was the rejection of the divine right of kings. Okay, I went along with that my whole life. I never gave it two thoughts. Only recently did it occur to me that in getting rid of the divine right of kings, we were accidentally, unintentionally, eroding the concept of human rights as endowed by our Creator. This concept of natural rights was first articulated by a Jesuit priest in Spain named Francisco Suarez in the 1500s. He asserted that humans have rights granted to them by their God, and that these rights supersede any dictates handed down by governments. It was a call taken up by Dutch legal scholar Hugo Grotius in the 1600s. When our second president, John Adams, was educating his son, John Quincy Adams, the works of Hugo Grotius were used to form his character and ideas about law. English political philosopher John Locke, who by the way was a fan of Oliver Cromwell, was also a big exponent of natural rights. The ideas of these thinkers shaped the worldview of America's founding fathers and led to the creation of the government we now have. But since the 18th century, the very underpinnings of that thought, that God came first and had dibs on human beings that outrank governments, is spurned. Imagine, for instance, if I walked into a modern court of law and asserted that I had rights as granted by my Creator. The judge would laugh at me. He wouldn't recognize the very legal rationale upon which our government and legal system are predicated. Look at how the media mocks people who don't want to be medically experimented on and assert their individual rights. They're called sociopaths. No one believes anymore in individual liberties or natural rights. How did this happen? Answer: we abandoned God. In distancing ourselves from the divine and becoming materialists, we unintentionally undermine the very foundation upon which our rights existed. Look at French philosopher Auguste Comte from the 1850s. He might be used to show the separation line from the old Christian world order to the new materialist world order that emerged after the Industrial Revolution and Darwin. Comte created what he called a religion for atheists, which he referred to as social positivism. He writes, "Social positivism only accepts duties for all and towards all. Its constant social viewpoint cannot include any notion of rights, for such notion always rests on individuality. We are born under a load of obligations of every kind, to our predecessors, to our successors, to our contemporaries. These obligations then increase or accumulate, for it is some time before we can return any service. Any human right is therefore as absurd as immoral. Since there are no divine rights anymore, this concept must therefore disappear completely, as related only to the preliminary regime and totally inconsistent with the final state, where there are only duties based on functions." Regarding Comte's idea of a secular religion for atheists, see here.
Comte's thinking on religion had as its starting point a characteristically blunt observation that in the modern world, thanks to the discoveries of science, it would no longer be possible for anyone intelligent to believe in God. Faith would henceforth be limited to the uneducated, the fanatical, women, children, and those in the final months of incurable diseases. At the same time, Comte recognized, as many of his more rational contemporaries did not, that a secular society devoted just to financial accumulation and romantic love, and devoid of any sources of consolation, transcendent awe, or solidarity, would be prey to some untenable social and emotional ills. Comte's solution was neither to cling blindly to sacred traditions, nor to cast them collectively and belligerently aside, but rather to pick out their more relevant and secular aspects and fuse them together with certain insights drawn from philosophy, art, and science. The result, the outcome of decades of thought and the summit of Comte's intellectual achievement, was a new religion, a religion for atheists, or, as Comte termed it, a religion of humanity, an original creed expressly tailored to the emotional and intellectual demands of modern men and women, rather than the inhabitants of Judea or northern India in 400 BC. Comte presented his new religion in 2 volumes, The Summary Exposition of the Universal Religion and The Theory of the Future of Man. He observed that traditional faiths tended to cement their authority by providing people with daily and even hourly schedules of who or what to think about, rotas typically pegged to the commemoration of a holy individual or supernatural incident. So Comte announced a calendar of his own, animated by a pantheon of secular heroes and ideas. In the Religion of Humanity, every month was to be devoted to the honouring of an important field of endeavour, for example, marriage, parenthood, art, science, agriculture, and every day to an individual who had made a valuable contribution within these categories.
Comte's secular religion is interesting with its idea of a science month or art month. It kind of reminds you of all the new things that they're doing now, like Gay Pride Month. Sadly, instead of having aspirational themes like Comte envisioned, our secular religion is based on sexual deviancy, hedonism, and shallowness. In this framework, things like Black Friday or Cyber Monday are revealed to be what they really are, religious holy days. Leftism and woke culture is merely a religion, stripped of God. It has all the strictures and dogmas, with none of the grace and no prospect for spiritual elevation. It's all carbs and no nutrients, all style and no substance. Listen to Jason Giorgiani talk about what's happening here.
All robust political ideologies have a metaphysical foundation, even if in somebody like John Locke or, let's say, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, it's less clear what metaphysics it's based on, because that political thinker did not develop the metaphysics himself. He's actually elaborating a political theory on the basis of an already developed metaphysics that maybe, is in the air during his epoch, or that, he's encountered in having read some more fundamental thinker, right? So I think part of the problem with politics in our time is that it has become deracinated, that people have forgotten that various political systems, including the one that we have in this country, right, the United States, the constitutional order of the United States, is based on a certain metaphysical conception. Like, for example, the US Constitution is based on the idea of an intelligently designed cosmos, where the creator of the cosmos also gave us reason, that we have God-given reason, and that we can use the reason that the architect of the universe gave us in order to understand the laws of the universe. And through our own personal initiative, and this is why we have individual liberty, through our own personal initiative, we can better ourselves and better society, right? Now, Darwin demolished that metaphysics. So the constitutional order of the United States isn't based on anything anymore. It's not legitimate. Now, you could try to rescue the constitutional order of the United States. You can attempt to salvage the idea of natural right, but you're going to have to develop a very complex cosmology and biology that is incorporating the insights of Darwinian evolution, but that somehow salvages the notion of intelligent design and of a relationship between the microcosm of human consciousness and some kind of cosmic consciousness, right? And until and unless somebody does that in a pretty substantive way, the United States political system has no basis, and it's illegitimate.
On some level, we thought that we could just ditch God and still remain free. As we're discovering, though, once you leave his protective cover, you're in a world that doesn't recognize natural rights, a totalitarian world of machine men with machine minds and machine hearts, a scientific dictatorship that makes claims upon you that no God ever dared to. Even the God of the Bible grants you the freedom to choose your own path. The leaders of the Great Reset are offering you no such freedom. Before you is a moral puzzle. If you push this button, something advantageous will happen for you. But be warned, if you do, a pompous elitist who you do not know and who you will never meet will be heckled mercilessly. The choice is yours. Choose wisely.